Book of Heaven, Volume 13. 9th to the 25th of August, 1921. Page 12 to 16. August 9, 1921. Effects of the acts done in the divine will. Example of the machine. Continuing in my usual state, I found myself outside of myself in the midst of a most extensive sea. I saw a machine, and as the engine moved, water would spurt out from all sides of this machine. Rising up to heaven, these waves of water spouted upon all saints and angels, and reaching the throne of the Eternal One, they poured impetuously at his feet, and then descended again into the depths of the same sea. I remained astonished in seeing this, and I said to myself, "What can this machine be?" And a light which came from that very sea told me, "The sea is my will, the machine is the soul who lives in my volition, the engine is the human will operating in the divine will. Every time the soul makes her own special intentions in my will, the engine puts the machine into motion, and since my will is life of the blessed as well as of the machine, it is no wonder that my will, which springs out from this machine, enters into heaven and glows with light and glory, spouting upon all, up to my throne, and then descends again into the sea of my will on earth, for the good of pilgrim souls. My will is everywhere, and the acts done in my will run everywhere, both in heaven and on earth. They run to the past, because my will existed, to the present, because my will has lost nothing of its activity, to the future, because it will exist eternally. How beautiful are the acts in my will! And since my will contains ever new contentments, these acts are new contentments for the very blessed. They substitute for the acts of the saints, which have not been done in my will. They are new graces for all creatures. Afterwards, I remained all afflicted because I had not seen my sweet Jesus, and he, moving in my interior, clasped me in his arms, telling me, "My daughter, why are you so afflicted? Am I not the sea itself?" August 13, 1921. Sadness does not enter into the divine will. The divine will contains the substance of all joys, and the fount of all happinesses. I was feeling very afflicted, and my lovable Jesus, moving in my interior, told me, "My daughter, courage, I don't want you afflicted. Because for one who lives in my will, the smile of heaven, the contentment of the blessed, the peace of the saints caress the whole of her being. My will contains the substance of all joys, the fount of all happinesses, and one who lives in my will, even in sorrow, feels pain and joy, tears and smile, bitterness and sweetness, kneaded together within her. Contentment is inseparable from my will. You must know that as you think in my will, as you speak, as you work, as you love, etc., you deliver to my will as many children for as many thoughts as you make, for as many words as you say, for as many works and acts of love as you emit. These children multiply to the infinite in my will and go around throughout heaven and through the entire earth, bringing new joy, new glory and contentment to heaven, and new grace to the earth, going through all hearts, carrying my sighs, my moans, the pleas of their mother who wants them saved, and who wants to give them her life. Now, these children, birthed from my will, in order to be recognized as my children, must resemble and have the same manners of the mother who delivered them. If they look sad, they will be put out of heaven, being told, "Sadness cannot enter our residence." They will not find their way into the creatures, because in seeing them sad, creatures will doubt that they are true legitimate children of my will. Besides, one who is sad does not have the grace to creep into others, to conquer them and dominate them. One who is sad is not capable of heroism, and of giving himself for the good of all. Many times these children are aborted, dying during labor, without coming out to the light of the divine will. August 20, 1921. The acts done in the divine will are new heavens of love and of glory. Continuing in my state of privation and of unspeakable bitterness, my lovable Jesus came for just a little, and surrounding me with his arms, told me, "My daughter, daughter of my will, I love so much one who lives in my will that I become her custodian, and I keep her sheltered in my own arms. I am jealous that not even one act be lost, because my own life is involved in each act." The fiat released the creation, and from the fiat, creation receives continuous preservation. If my fiat withdrew, it would turn into nothing, and if it remains intact, without changing, it is because it has not moved from my fiat. However, I did not repeat another fiat, otherwise more new heavens, more new suns and stars would come out, one different from the other. On the other hand, in the soul who lives in my will there is not just one fiat, but repeated fiats. Therefore, as the soul operates in my will, I repeat the fiat and new heavens, new suns and stars are extended. And since the soul contains an intelligence, these heavens are new heavens of love, of glory, of light, of adoration, of knowledge, forming such a variety of beauty that I myself remain enraptured. The whole of heaven, the saints, the angels, cannot remove their gaze from her, because as they admire the variety of heavens which she contains, more new ones extend, one more beautiful than the other. They see the celestial fatherland copied in the soul who lives in my will, the multiplicity of new things which multiply to the infinite. How could I not keep this soul guarded and not be extremely jealous of her, if just one act of hers is worth more than creation itself? In fact, the heavens, the sun, are without intelligence, therefore they have no value in themselves, all the value is mine. On the other hand, since one who lives in my will contains an intelligence, there is her will that runs within mine, and the power of my fiat uses it as raw material in order to extend these new heavens. Therefore, as the soul operates in my will, she gives me the delight of forming new creations. Her acts are the manifestation of the life of my will, the prodigies of my volition, my repeated fiat. How could I not love this soul? August 25, 1921. The more knowledge one has about the divine will, the more value his acts acquire. I was fusing all of myself in the holy divine volition, and my Jesus told me, "Daughter of my will, the more you immerse yourself in my volition, the more the circle of your will is enlarged within mine." It is yet true that the acts done in my will fill everything, just as the light of the sun fills the earth. However, by repeating the acts in my will, the circumference of the sun itself becomes larger and the soul acquires greater intensity of light and heat. As she repeats her acts in my will, her will remains tied to mine as many times, and these knots make many divine rivulets flow over the whole earth, preventing the free course of justice. And yet, O my Jesus, many scourges fill the earth, such as to be horrifying. Ah! My daughter, yet, one can say that this is still nothing. And if it wasn't for these rivulets, for these knots of the human will made in the divine will, I would look at the earth as if it did not belong to me any more, and therefore I would make chasms open everywhere to swallow it. Oh, how the earth weighs upon me! But he was saying this with such bitterness as to make stones cry. Then he added, "Every time I speak to you about my will and you acquire new understanding and knowledge, your act in my will receives more value and you acquire more immense riches. It happens as to a man who possesses a gem, and knows that this gem is worth a penny. He is rich 1 penny. Now, it happens that he shows his gem to a skilled expert, who tells him that his gem has a value of 5,000 liras. That man no longer possesses 1 penny, but he is rich 5,000 liras. Now, after some time he has the opportunity to show his gem to another expert, even more experienced, who assures him that his gem contains the value of 100,000 liras, and is ready to buy it if he wants to sell. Now that man is rich 100,000 liras. According to his knowledge of the value of his gem, he becomes richer, and feels greater love and appreciation for the gem. He keeps it in custody more jealously, knowing that the gem is all his fortune, while before he held it as a trifle. Yet, the gem has not changed. That which it was, so it is now. He is the one who has changed, by understanding the value that the gem contains. Now, the same happens with my will, as well as with virtues. According to how the soul understands their value and acquires knowledge of them, she comes to acquire new values and new riches in her acts. Therefore, the more you know my will, the more your act will acquire value. Oh, if you knew what seas of graces I open between you and me every time I speak to you about the effects of my will, you would die of joy and would make feast, as if you had acquired new reigns to dominate.